Let's talk about dangerous settlements, as experts are warning that part of the Weija Hills close to the Kasoa toll booth faces imminent collapse. They say human activities like sand mining and the blasting of rocks have affected that part of the ridge, hence heavy rainfall or earthquakes in the area could result in a landslide. Maxwell Agbaba reports that in spite of the warning, some residents say they feel safe. He has been speaking to them as part of our Joy in My Community program on the JoyNews channel.
The captivating view of part of the Weija Hill overlooking the Accra Cape Coast Highway. Beautiful view which continues to attract estate and private developers. A team of experts visited the Weija Ridge some weeks ago and passed a scary verdict. They say as a result of the human activities such as sand mining and quarrying activities, the hill has become weak and faces imminent collapse.
We are coming to you from the community on a hill, the Weija Ridge, which has been described by the Ghana Geological Survey Authority and Environmental Protection Agency as a ticking time bomb. But the residents here think otherwise. We hear from the experts and the people.
Very difficult for us to get to school because when we are climbing, when we step on the rocks, it's normally...
Here on a part of the Weija Hill, I've met 14-year-old Richmond Sikapa, the Form 1 student of the AME Zion School in Kasoa, just returned from school. He loves it here, but hates the tremor that he says usually occurs at night.
It was very terrible. Sometimes when it rains, the earthquake, it feels like when you are in the building, it shakes the building. So we become scared.
So usually it happens around what time? At night?
Yeah, sometimes. At night, sometimes at day.
Okay. Do you remember the last time it happened?
Last year.
Last year?
Yeah.
Okay. But can you tell, what is it like living here?
Yeah, when it rains, it becomes very cold here. So when you go to where the shelters to the shelter, usually they don't come because of the earthquake. They are scared.
Okay.
So all the people hide in their room.
Okay. Samuel Okan has lived on the Weija Ridge since 2000. He says access to potable drinking water remains a challenge. He tells me that for a very long time, residents here have not had water flowing through their taps. He's concerned about the quarrying activities on the hill as well. He tells me that has stopped for some time now after the intervention of city authorities.
This place, our main challenges are the roads. There's no water. Okay. This place, the tremor, you can be there sometimes, you experience it twice or 3 times a day. Wow. Very sharp. You get up on your bed, then it's just gone.
Yeah. This is dangerous.
Yeah, they done it because they quarry the sand for other work at I think around Tetakwashi in Church. This is why they had the sand.
Okay.
To fill those places. So that side there's an erosion part there which it could be a landslide one day. Wow. That down there could be a landslide. Oh, living at that edge there is dangerous. And people still quarrying stones over there. You go there, they are there quarrying stones. And nobody, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Municipal Assembly, nothing is done about it. You go, you see them there.
Kwesidavo has lived in this community for the past 2 decades. He tells me that as a result of the human activity on this hill, anytime it rains, there's a collection of silt onto the main Accra Kasoa highway, just some meters away from where I'm standing. It says that usually causes a gridlock on the stretch.
The road to the community, the road is very bad. and whenever it rains, the rain always wash away the soil from the road, and it's very difficult for the cars to come to the town. There's no dangerous at the top there. But when they started taking the sands from the mountain, they came to stop them, and they've stopped. But when you go to the top there, just like where we are now, it's very safe and nothingness. Supposing they are continuing using that site for stone quarry and those things, I'll say it will be dangerous. But what they've stopped now, it is not going to be dangerous. It's okay.
Justice Adegbe has also lived in this community for the past 20 years. He's equally concerned about the silt that is usually dumped on the main Accra-Kasoa road after every rainfall. He wants government to take urgent steps to fill up the huge hole that has been left here on this hill. He believes that when that is done, the silt that is usually washed down the hill will stop.
They have these contractors, they come to the gravels were collected from this very part of the mountain, and then after they left the place unprotected, like maybe they left the place unprotected, and then they left it ajar. So when it rains, the force from the mountain pushes the rain towards this direction, which has dug a very big hole at the top there. So all the time when it rains, it just flows to the main street, and then it blocks the street. When it goes to the top there, when you check, it's very awful. You will not be very happy when you see that particular hole. It's my major concern about I want the government to do something about that particular thing. It's not good. When you pass this there, even as you personally, as a man, with the courage you have, when you get there, your film, will go. Even passing there, it's very dreadful.
We've been to the Weija Ridge, and we've seen the danger there on that ridge. We've been interacting with residents. Many of them feel that there's no danger at all. But we're here to hear from the expert. We're here at the National Seismological Observatory to hear from an expert. He's a principal seismologist here, Nicholas Opoku. He was part of a team of experts who visited the Weija Ridge some days ago. Is it a satellite dish?
This is a satellite dish. Okay. Yes, it's part of the earthquake monitoring equipment or setup for monitoring vibrations of the ground in Ghana. Okay. Yes. So what we have sensitive equipment that detects vibrations of the ground. Okay. And we've placed them at different locations purposely to monitor earthquakes. When a bigger earthquake occurs, this mountain can undergo landslides because the mountain itself is unstable from geological point of view. Okay. And so once it is
it the Weija Ridge?
The Weija Ridge mountain, yes. Especially the parts closer to the tollbooth area, and some selected areas have a lot of soft rocks in it. So they are inherently weak. And because it's also an earthquake-prone zone, it has undergone serious, various shaking in the past. Okay, so you can see a lot of fractures in the rocks. So they are actually weak. So it makes the place more prone to landslides. So even under gravity, you can have a landslide. Wow. And these landslides are also normally exacerbated by earthquakes, because when earthquake occurs, they add more load to destabilize the slopes. It also compounds the risk of landslides in the area. Okay. The materials are loose. So when it rains heavily, it adds so much load to destabilize the slope. So they weather it, they erode it all the way to engulf the down settlement. And so those who are settling down on the roadside, such materials will go and engulf them. And also because it's also eroding the hills, and there are also buildings on top of the hills. Okay, so it means their foundation is being washed away. And so a time will come that even buildings on top will also be affected. It's more, some aspect has to do with engineering solution, yes. Okay. Because unfortunately it's a very tall mountain. So you can see the slope is very, very steep. Yeah. And because we have also cut it. Yeah. And we have also cut it closer to the buildings on top. Yeah. So it's difficult to bench it from engineering point of view to stabilize it. You understand? But so surely I think there should be a way at engineering solution aimed at destabilizing the slope. Yeah. But then, of course, still some elements of structures which are at high risk also needs to be deconcentrated from the area, to reduce the level of risk in the area.
So that would mean demolishing some of the structures? Or?
Yes, if they are at high risk, sure, then some of them, those at high risk, ought to be.
Well, on the back of that, let's get on Zoom and interact with a road and building consultant, engineer Abdullahi Mahama, for more. Engineer Mahama, thank you for joining the conversation. You have seen how silt from the hill is usually dumped on the main Accra-Kasoa highway after every rainfall, causing traffic and inconvenience to motorists. Now, there are fears the entire highway could be cut off should there be a landslide, as the experts are warning. Is this correct?
Yes, let me say good morning to your viewers. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Engineer Mahama.
Well, before I answer the question, I think Maswala Gbagba spoke with me yesterday in the evening, and I sent him a WhatsApp on my Twitter handle on the 29th of March 2022. I stated emphatically that in the coming days there will be a massive washing of the soil at the Weija to the road. That is 29th March 2022. I'm not a prophet of doom. But before then, last year we had a documentary by one of your very own who was with you at Joy, Komla Adom. And the title was Time Taking Bomb. So the specialist the expert you just spoke with right now was part of the documentary, myself and the NADMO. Right. And so this is not news to me. So I just want you to, I'll pick the Twitter handle for you once again, and you confirm that on the 29th of March at Mahama under Asko Abdullahi, just about 2 weeks ago, under 2 weeks ago. So Friday, when it happened, a lot of my colleagues were calling to find out what did I see. And I said, well, that's the field that we study. And it's unfortunate that when we speak about these things, authorities do not take it very serious. So I'm just praying and hoping that what I alluded to or what I stated on my Twitter handle does not come to pass. But sadly, it's what we've started seeing. And what I preempted was that we're going to have massive mudslide that may cover the two approaches of the carriageway, i.e. those who are Kasoa bound and those who are Accra bound. Now what we see is that whenever it rains, because of the fracture of the mountain, the Weija mountain, a certain quantity of debris, i.e. the loose weathered phyllite, comes onto the road and then more or less covers the Accra leg, that's the Accra bound portion of the road, by 0.4 of a meter to 0.6, depending on the magnitude of the rain. One of these days, it will go beyond the first one, the Accra bound leg of the carriageway, and go across the other leg. That may even lead towards the Weija lake itself. And in that instance, we're going to have a total blockage of both carriageways in and out of Accra.
Engineer Mahama, very quickly, I just want you to chip in this bit. How bad would it be if what you are talking about were to happen? How bad would it be in terms of loss of life? How bad would it be in terms of the blockage and preventing people from moving to and fro? How bad would that be?
Well, it's going to be very severe. The country may not be able to work on it as expected. We're going to have a lot of buildings there who are going to be covered total by the backslide. We will be fortunate if it happens within the day and people may be active or they'll have a lot of caution because they know the situation around the areas. But if it happens in the night when people are actually asleep, we wouldn't wake up the next morning to have a very good story or a good news about what would happen within that area. What worries me is that all that we have enumerated, the activities are ongoing. A lot of construction activities are still ongoing. And sadly, when you check the people who are staying within those areas, they have permits from the assembly. So in even government trying to ward off the people, what is the assembly itself doing in issuing permit to the people, knowing that those areas are dangerous for habitation of human lives? And I don't want to imagine the extent of devastation that this country will be confronted with should we have maybe 72 hours non-stop rain or more, because it will make the rock so heavy, the weather rock will be so loose, because like the people are saying, every now and then the mountain is going through some process of earth tremors, and so it's getting fractured, it's opening up at the top, and a lot of construction is ongoing, and then those earth moving equipment are also actively doing construction there, and the rock keep on becoming fractured. And that is what we have to start working on to save people from the place. Otherwise, NADMO will be overwhelmed. NADMO will be overwhelmed when they get to that stage. Sadly, when we speak, authorities turn a deaf ear to expert opinions.
Right. Let's talk remedial measures. What can be done to salvage that part of the hill? I mean, we've been told by the geologists that that part of that portion, that mountain range, is especially weak. What can be done to salvage that part of the hill, or should we just evacuate all of those in the area?
There should be an extensive education, investigation, further investigation. We want to do the reconnaissance study, the deck study, but there should be an extensive education and investigation. Some of the buildings, obviously, when you just see them, they have to be evacuated. People have to start leaving the place because the rains here are going to be massive. So once we identify those which are, likely to be affected with this coming rain, those will have to be evacuated, and then we'll put in a certain plan that periodically we'll have to get others who are less in danger to get out of the place, so that we can loosen. You see, there are a lot of loose material. What we'll do as engineers is that we'll have to go in with machines, and then all the loose areas would have to be removed, and then what we call the berm. We have to berm the mountain because the houses are so close, so some of the houses have to be broken down. If you go to Ayimensa, from the Peduasilo to Ayimensa, you see that there are about 3 steps of the mountain. When we were doing the road construction in 2004 to 2006 or 2007, because of the high mountain, we couldn't just cut the rock to widen the road. So you have to do like a step so that the slopes may have a gentle movement, from the top there with the berm, so that if in the event where there are rocks, which are even come from the first instance, from the highest area, they will slow down because they will get to a certain flat area and then lay there before the loose ones will move downwards. So we have to evacuate a lot of people with an extensive investigation. Right. And then when we come out with a conclusion, then government will have to look at the package of getting those, because most of them have been given permits. Most of the people who are staying there, let's say they are people who don't have any knowledge or any idea about what is happening there. And they have their lands and they have gone for permit to construct the buildings. And the technocrat at the assembly, who should know better, are the ones issuing permits for the people to be there.
Which is what makes
when they get to that stage, because they have been legally given permits, you have to duly compensate them when they're getting them out of the place.
Right. And on the back of that, so for those who may choose to stay in this area, what can be done to secure their buildings on an individual level? What can they do?
No, once you are closer to where the rocks are already fractured, there's nothing you can do. A whole mountain, maybe more than 500 square meter area is about to come down. Your building is sitting on the 500 square meter. You cannot protect it. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing, because it has to be properly engineered. Some houses have to be removed, and then you have to now engineer it, or at least to make it a bit stable. But we cannot control whatever is going to happen there completely. So government has to be steadfast with this. Government has to be proactive and get people out of the place with immediate effect before we are visited with this year's rain.
Engineer Mahama, thank you so much for engaging us this morning and for sharing your thoughts on these matters. He was talking about the Weija Hills and developments